Welcome to Lost at 3 a.m. Put your phone down, close your eyes, and let this be the last video you hear tonight. Relax, breathe, and let's begin. Tonight, we step into the magical world of Quidditch, the high-speed, skybound sport that has captivated witches, wizards, and even Muggles alike. It's a game of strategy, skill, and pure chaos, where players race through the air on broomsticks, dodging enchanted balls and aiming for one ultimate prize, the Golden Snitch. First introduced to us in Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone, Quidditch quickly became one of the most thrilling and beloved elements of the wizarding world. From the moment Harry Potter took to the skies in his first ever match at Hogwarts, catching the snitch with his bare hands in a spectacular first game, fans were hooked. But Quidditch is more than just a school sport. It has centuries of history, legendary players, and a fan base just as devoted as any real-world sport. Tonight, we'll uncover the origins of Quidditch, explore its rules and magical equipment, and relive some of the most famous matches in wizarding history. We'll also take a look at the real-world version of Quidditch, which has leapt from the pages of Harry Potter into universities and tournaments around the world. So imagine yourself high above the Quidditch pitch, the wind rushing past as you grip your broomstick. The crowd is roaring, the bludgers are spinning out of control, and the Golden Snitch glints in the distance. The game is about to begin. Quidditch has been a staple of wizarding culture for centuries, but where did it all begin? To understand how the sport became the high-flying spectacle we know today, we have to go back nearly 1,000 years to Queerditch Marsh. According to historical records, the earliest version of Quidditch was first documented in the 11th century by a witch named Gertie Keddle. She lived near the marsh and wrote about a group of wizards flying around on broomsticks, throwing a ball to each other. At first, it was a simple game. No hoops, no bludgers, no snitch. Just a few witches and wizards tossing around an enchanted ball for fun. But as time passed, the game began to evolve. The first major development came when players started adding goals. Instead of just passing the ball, they decided to score points by throwing it through barrels or tree branches. Over time, these makeshift goals were replaced by the 3 tall hoops we see in modern Quidditch. Then came the bludgers. Originally, these were just enchanted rocks, hurled at players to make the game more difficult. Eventually, they were replaced by iron balls that zoomed around the pitch on their own, adding a dangerous and unpredictable element to the game. But the biggest change in Quidditch history came with the introduction of the Golden Snitch, or rather, its original version, the Golden Snidget. The Snidget was a tiny golden bird with incredible speed and agility, so difficult to catch that it was eventually incorporated into the sport as a high-stakes target. At first, Quidditch players would release a Snidget onto the field, and the first player to catch it would win the match. This led to overhunting and near extinction of the bird until a wizard named Bowman Wright created the Golden Snitch, a mechanical version that replaced the live bird in official matches. By the 14th century, Quidditch had become an established sport, with most of the rules we know today in place. It spread from England to the rest of Europe, and by the 17th century, it had grown into a global phenomenon. Over time, professional teams were formed, tournaments were organised, and the game became as important to the wizarding world as football is to Muggles. From its humble beginnings in a marshy field with a few enchanted rocks and a leather ball, Quidditch evolved into the most exciting and dangerous sport in the wizarding world. A game where anything can happen, and where catching a tiny golden ball can turn an entire match on its head. Quidditch might seem like pure chaos at first glance. Players soaring through the sky, balls zipping unpredictably across the pitch, and bludgers trying to knock people off their broomsticks. But beneath all the action, there's a structure, a strategy, and a set of rules that make it one of the most thrilling sports in the wizarding world. Each Quidditch team is made up of 7 players, each with their own crucial role. 3 of them are chasers, the ones responsible for scoring goals. They pass the quaffle, a red ball about the size of a football, between each other, dodging defenders and searching for an opening to throw it through one of the 3 goal hoops. Every time the quaffle soars through a hoop, that team earns 10 points. Guarding those hoops is the keeper, the last line of defense, blocking shots and keeping the opposing chasers from racking up points. While the keeper focuses on defending the goals, the team also has two beaters, the true protectors of the game. Armed with enchanted bats, they keep their eyes on the two bludgers, heavy iron balls that streak across the pitch like missiles, looking for a player to knock from their broom. The beater's job is to redirect the bludgers toward their opponents, while keeping their own team safe from sudden impacts. And then there's the seeker. Unlike the rest of the team, the seeker has only one job: find and catch the golden snitch. The snitch is tiny, golden, and fast, darting through the air with a mind of its own. It's nearly impossible to see, let alone catch, and it never follows a predictable pattern. Catching it is worth 150 points, but more importantly, it ends the match, meaning a well-timed snitch capture can determine the outcome of the entire game. Unlike Muggle sports, a Quidditch match has no set time limit. The game doesn't end until the snitch is caught. That means a match can last for hours, days, or in extreme cases, even months. The longest recorded Quidditch match in history lasted 3 months, with both seekers struggling to track down the elusive snitch, while their exhausted teams continued to battle on. And like any sport, Quidditch has its share of fouls, some common, others downright dangerous. There's blatching, where a player intentionally collides mid-air with an opponent to throw them off course. There's cobbing, the excessive use of elbows to push others aside. There's snitch nip, where a player illegally interferes with the snitch before it has been caught. And then, of course, there's blurting, using a wand against an opponent, which is strictly forbidden in official matches. Quidditch isn't just a game of speed, it's a game of skill, teamwork, and strategy. A chaser must know when to pass and when to take the shot. A beater has to read the match in real time, predicting where a bludger will go before it gets there. A keeper must react in an instant with no room for hesitation. And the seeker is always on the lookout, scanning the sky, ready to take off in pursuit the moment they catch a glimpse of gold. And in the end, it all comes down to a single moment, when the seeker makes their move, when the snitch is within reach, when the entire stadium holds its breath. Because once the snitch is caught, the game is over, and the fate of the match is sealed. Quidditch isn't just about the players, it's about the enchanted objects that make the game unlike anything in the Muggle world. From the bewitched balls to the sleek, high-speed broomsticks, every piece of Quidditch equipment is designed to add another layer of excitement, unpredictability, and sometimes danger. At the heart of the game are the 3 types of balls, each with its own role. First, there's the quaffle, the only ball used to score points. It's about the size of a football and has a built-in charm that causes it to fall more slowly than a normal ball, giving chasers a fair chance to catch it mid-air. Unlike the other balls, it isn't enchanted to move on its own. It relies entirely on the skill and strategy of the players passing and shooting it through the hoops. Then, there are the bludgers, the real troublemakers on the field. Unlike the quaffle, the bludgers have minds of their own. These iron balls zip through the air completely untethered, hunting down players with a single goal: to knock them off their broomsticks. They don't favour any team. They're equal opportunity chaos, smashing into whoever happens to be in the way. It's up to the beaters to use their bats to whack the bludgers in the opposite direction, aiming them at their opponents while keeping their own teammates safe. Without the beaters, a Quidditch game would quickly turn into absolute carnage. And then, of course, there's the golden snitch, the most famous and elusive ball in the game. Small, golden, and winged, the snitch flits unpredictably around the pitch, never staying in one place for long. It's not just fast, it's enchanted to evade capture, dipping and darting out of a seeker's reach at the last possible moment. While the quaffle and bludgers follow the action, the snitch seems to exist in its own game, ignoring the rest of the match until a seeker finally spots it and gives chase. Catching it doesn't automatically win the match, but it does end it. And with its 150-point value, it usually determines the final outcome. But the game wouldn't be possible without the most important piece of equipment, the broomstick. Early Quidditch players rode whatever broomsticks they could get their hands on, but as the sport became more competitive, broomstick manufacturers began developing specialized models designed for speed, agility, and precision handling. The Clean Sweep and Comet series were some of the first brooms used in professional Quidditch, but as the game evolved, so did the technology. By the time Harry Potter entered the game, the Nimbus 2000 was considered one of the finest racing brooms ever made, sleek and fast with unmatched maneuverability. But even that was eventually overshadowed by the Firebolt, a broom so advanced that it was nearly impossible to beat in a straight sprint. Professional Quidditch teams often compete not just with their skills, but with their broom technology, ensuring that their players have the best possible chance to dominate the skies. Every piece of Quidditch equipment, from the bewitched balls to the state-of-the-art broomsticks, is designed to make the game what it is: unpredictable, high speed, and incredibly dangerous. A quaffle can be intercepted, a bludger can knock you from the sky, and a snitch can disappear in an instant. In Quidditch, it's not just about skill. It's about keeping your head on a swivel, reacting in the moment, and hoping that your broomstick is fast enough to keep up with the madness. Quidditch isn't just a casual game played at Hogwarts. It's a full-blown, international sport, with teams that have become legendary in wizarding history. From powerhouse clubs in the British and Irish Quidditch League, to national teams competing for glory in the Quidditch World Cup, the sport has produced some of the most skilled and eccentric players to ever take to the skies. One of the most feared teams in professional Quidditch is the Holyhead Harpies, an all-female team known for their aggressive, high-speed playing style. Founded in 1203, the Harpies have a reputation for lightning-fast passes, razor-sharp coordination, and beaters who don't hold back. Their fans are among the most passionate in the sport, and their signature emerald green robes can be spotted in Quidditch stadiums worldwide. Even Ginny Weasley played for the Harpies after leaving Hogwarts, proving that Gryffindor's Star Chaser was good enough for the big leagues. On the opposite end of the spectrum, there's the Chudley Cannons, a team that has become just as famous for their losing streaks as they have for their victories. With their bright orange uniforms and undying optimism, the Cannons have one of the most devoted fan bases in the wizarding world, despite the fact that their last major championship win was over a century ago. Their motto, "Let's all just keep our fingers crossed and hope for the best," perfectly sums up their underdog spirit. The Cannons may not be champions, but their fans stay loyal, hoping that one day their luck will turn around. Then there's Puddlemere United, the oldest Quidditch team in Britain, dating all the way back to 1163. Unlike the Cannons, Puddlemere has a history of dominance, producing some of the finest players to ever take to the skies. Their deep blue uniforms, adorned with crossed golden wands, represent their tradition of excellence, and they have consistently been one of the most respected teams in the sport. Internationally, few teams are as famous as the Bulgarian national Quidditch team, best known for having Victor Krum as their seeker. The Bulgarians made it to the 1994 Quidditch World Cup final, facing off against Ireland in what became one of the most famous matches in history. Despite Krum catching the snitch, Bulgaria still lost the match, proving that sometimes even the best seeker in the world can't carry an entire team to victory. Ireland's national team, on the other hand, left that World Cup with the trophy in hand, thanks to their unbelievable teamwork, skilled chasers and beaters who dominated the match. Their celebratory display included an explosion of leprechaun gold raining down over the pitch, making it one of the most unforgettable championship victories of all time. Quidditch teams don't just compete for trophies, they create legends, rivalries, and moments that go down in wizarding history. Whether it's the sheer dominance of the Holyhead Harpies, the unbreakable optimism of the Chudley Cannons, or the global spectacle of the Quidditch World Cup, the sport remains one of the most electrifying parts of the wizarding world. Every sport has its legends. The players who redefine the game, break records, and leave behind stories that are told for generations. Quidditch is no different. Throughout wizarding history, certain names have become synonymous with greatness. Their skill on the broomstick unmatched, their victories unforgettable. One of the most famous Quidditch players of all time is Viktor Krum, the Bulgarian seeker who made history by joining his national team at just 18 years old. Krum was more than just talented. He was a force of nature on the pitch, known for his incredible speed and near impossible dives. During the 1994 Quidditch World Cup final, Krum pulled off one of the boldest moves in Quidditch history, catching the snitch despite knowing it wouldn't be enough to win the match. His decision stunned fans worldwide, but it proved just how fearless and tactical he was, choosing to end the game on his own terms rather than let Bulgaria be humiliated by an even larger loss. Krum's career continued long after the World Cup, and he remained one of the most respected seekers in the sport. Then there's Gwenog Jones, captain of the all-female Holyhead Harpies and one of the fiercest beaters ever to take to the skies. Known for her aggressive style and no-nonsense attitude, Gwenog didn't just play Quidditch, she dominated it. Opposing teams feared her, not just because of her raw power, but because of her legendary temper. More than once, she was fined for hexing fans or rival players who insulted her team. But for the Harpies and their fans, Gwenog wasn't just a player, she was a warrior. Another name that stands out in Quidditch history is Ludo Bagman, a former beater for the Wimborne Wasps. Bagman was known for his quick reflexes and ability to hit a bludger with pinpoint accuracy, but his legacy is a complicated one. After retiring from professional Quidditch, he became the head of the Department of Magical Games and Sports, but his gambling addiction and shady dealings nearly ruined his reputation. Despite his questionable choices off the pitch, his Quidditch skills were undeniable, and he remained one of the most memorable beaters in British Quidditch history. Quidditch isn't just about international tournaments and professional leagues, it also creates unexpected stars. Ginny Weasley, originally known as Gryffindor's fearless chaser, went on to play for the Holyhead Harpies after leaving Hogwarts. Her career didn't last forever, but her skill and determination on the field earned her recognition as one of the best young chasers of her generation. Even after retiring, she continued to shape the sport as a Quidditch correspondent for the Daily Prophet, ensuring that the game she loved was always at the heart of wizarding news. And then, of course, there's Harry Potter, arguably the most famous seeker in Hogwarts history. Unlike most Quidditch legends, Harry's fame wasn't just because of his skill, it was because of the unbelievable circumstances that surrounded his matches. From dodging rogue bludgers to fending off Dementors mid-game, Harry's Quidditch career was anything but ordinary. He was the youngest seeker in a century, catching the snitch in his very first match at just 11 years old. Though his professional career never took off, his impact on Hogwarts Quidditch was unforgettable. These players didn't just compete, they shaped the history of the sport, proving that Quidditch isn't just about flying fast or scoring points. It's about strategy, resilience, and the ability to turn a match into a moment of legend. Every 4 years, the wizarding world gathers for the biggest sporting event in magical history, the Quidditch World Cup. It's more than just a tournament. It's a global spectacle where the best teams from around the world battle for glory and where history is made in the skies. The origins of the Quidditch World Cup date back centuries, with the earliest recorded tournament taking place in the 1400s. Since then, it has grown into the most prestigious competition in the sport, attracting not only die-hard fans, but also wizards and witches who don't normally follow Quidditch, because the World Cup is about more than just the matches. It's about the atmosphere, the magical displays, the rivalries, and the celebrations that take over the host country for weeks at a time. One of the most infamous World Cups was the 1473 tournament, which holds the record for the most fouls committed in a single match. Every one of the 700 officially recognised Quidditch fouls was used at least once during the game, including some that were so dangerous they were later banned entirely. That year, referees were known to disappear mid-match, most likely victims of well-placed hexes from angry team supporters. It was absolute chaos, but it also solidified the World Cup's reputation as the most intense Quidditch competition in existence. More recently, the 1994 Quidditch World Cup became one of the most famous matches in modern history. Hosted in England, it saw Ireland face off against Bulgaria, a game that would become legendary for one reason: Victor Crumb's decision to catch the snitch despite knowing his team would still lose. It was a moment that shocked the Quidditch world, showing that sometimes strategy and honour mattered more than victory. That World Cup was also remembered for what happened after the match: the attack by Death Eaters, which turned the celebrations into chaos and marked one of the first public signs that Voldemort's influence was returning. Beyond the matches themselves, the World Cup is known for its wildly creative opening ceremonies. Each host country puts its own magical twist on the event, with massive spell-infused displays, flying formations, and even enchanted creatures joining the festivities. In 2014, the World Cup hosted in Patagonia saw one of the most elaborate pre-match performances ever, featuring Velas and even a herd of demiguises that made parts of the stadium disappear mid-show. For fans, the World Cup isn't just about watching the matches, it's about the entire experience. Wizards from all over the world flood into the host country, setting up massive enchanted campsites that become a mix of team pride and magical mayhem. Entire fields turn into miniature wizarding villages, filled with floating banners, enchanted fireworks, and souvenir stands selling everything from self-writing team autographs to omnioculars that replay highlights in slow motion. The Quidditch World Cup isn't just about competition, it's about the magic of the sport itself, the way it brings people together, the rivalries, the celebrations, and the unforgettable moments that turn players into legends. Whether it's a record-breaking match, a controversial call, or a snitch capture that changes history, the World Cup proves time and time again that Quidditch is more than just a game. It's a phenomenon. Quidditch isn't just a professional sport played in massive stadiums around the world. It's also one of the biggest traditions at Hogwarts. From the moment first years step into the castle, they hear about House Quidditch, the fierce, high-stakes tournament that determines which of the 4 houses will claim the Quidditch Cup. Each house has its own Quidditch team, made up of 7 players chosen through grueling tryouts. For students, earning a spot on the team is a huge honour, and for the next several years, they'll represent their house in some of the most dramatic, chaotic, and legendary matches ever played on a school pitch. These games aren't just about points, they're about house pride, rivalries, and occasionally, a bit of personal vengeance. No house rivalry is more infamous than Gryffindor versus Slytherin. Every year, this match is the most highly anticipated, drawing the biggest crowd and usually ending in some kind of controversy. Gryffindor's aggressive, risk-taking playstyle clashes with Slytherin's strategic, sometimes underhanded tactics, and it often results in near fistfights, sabotage broomsticks, and injuries that require an overnight stay in the hospital wing. One of the most legendary players in Hogwarts history is, of course, Harry Potter. As the youngest Seeker in a century, he made history in his very first match by catching the snitch in his mouth, securing Gryffindor's victory against Slytherin. Over the years, Harry would face some of the most unbelievable obstacles on the Quidditch pitch, from rogue bludgers trying to knock him unconscious, to Dementors invading the field mid-game, to a sabotage broomstick nearly killing him in his first year. Despite all of this, he became one of the greatest Seekers in Hogwarts history, helping Gryffindor win multiple Quidditch Cups. But Hogwarts Quidditch isn't just about the players, it's about the entire school getting involved. The matches bring out the true spirit of house loyalty, with students showing up in full support of their teams, chanting house slogans, waving enchanted banners, and, in some cases, throwing hexes at rival supporters. The announcers, particularly Lee Jordan, took the matches to a whole new level, turning his commentary into a mix of play-by-play analysis and extremely biased insults directed at Slytherin. And while Gryffindor and Slytherin may steal the spotlight, Ravenclaw and Hufflepuff also produce incredible teams. Ravenclaw teams are known for their clever tactics and strategic plays, often making up for their lack of brute force with skillful teamwork. Hufflepuff, often underestimated, has produced some of the toughest and most resilient players, including Cedric Diggory, who was widely respected as one of the best seekers Hogwarts had ever seen before his tragic death. The Hogwarts Quidditch Cup isn't just about the sport, it's about legacy, teamwork, and proving which house is truly the best. Whether it's a game-winning snitch capture, an unexpected underdog victory, or a dramatic mid-air collision, the memories made on the Hogwarts Quidditch pitch last a lifetime. Quidditch may have started as a purely magical sport, but its impact stretched far beyond the wizarding world. What began as a fictional game in Harry Potter eventually leapt off the page and onto real-life fields, with thousands of Muggles across the world taking up broomsticks to play their own version of the sport. In the mid-2000s, Quidditch made its real-world debut when students at Middlebury College in Vermont created the first recorded game of Muggle Quidditch. What started as a fun, unofficial adaptation quickly spread to universities and leagues across the world, evolving into an organised sport with its own set of rules, governing bodies, and even an annual Quidditch World Cup. Without magic, adjustments had to be made. Players still run with broomsticks between their legs, adding an extra challenge to movement and coordination. Instead of a flying golden snitch, the snitch became a neutral player dressed in gold, with a tennis ball attached to their back, and seekers have to chase them down and grab the ball to end the game. The quaffle is played with a volleyball, and the bludgers are dodgeballs, thrown by beaters to temporarily knock out opposing players. Despite these changes, Muggle Quidditch kept the spirit of the original game alive. It remains fast-paced, strategic, and highly competitive. The sport became so popular that it now has its own official governing body, the International Quidditch Association, IQA, which oversees leagues, tournaments, and official rule changes. Universities and clubs worldwide field Quidditch teams, with some schools even offering it as a varsity-level sport. One of the most surprising things about Quidditch's rise in the Muggle world is how inclusive and welcoming it became. Unlike many traditional sports, Quidditch encourages mixed gender teams, allowing players of all identities to compete together. The sport embraces a diverse range of athletes, blending athleticism, teamwork, and just the right amount of fantasy-inspired fun. And while flying broomsticks and enchanted snitches may never be a reality, Quidditch in the Muggle world proves that magic isn't just about spells and wands. Sometimes it's about a group of people coming together, pushing the limits of their imagination, and making the impossible feel real. Quidditch isn't just a sport, it's a symbol of adventure, competition, and the boundless imagination of the wizarding world. From its humble beginnings in a marsh, played by a few witches and wizards on broomsticks, to becoming the most popular and dangerous sport in magical history, Quidditch has always been more than just a game. It represents teamwork, strategy, and the thrill of chasing the impossible. For Harry Potter, Quidditch was more than just an extracurricular activity. It was his first true escape, the first place where he felt completely free. The moment he soared into the air for his first match, he wasn't just playing a game, he was flying, untethered from the weight of his past, with the wind in his hair and the stadium cheering around him. For countless young witches and wizards, Quidditch was their dream, their passion, and in some cases, their legacy. Beyond the pages of Harry Potter, Quidditch has become a real-world phenomenon, proving that even Muggles can take part in the magic. Universities, clubs, and international teams now compete in their own version of the sport, showing that imagination and determination can turn fiction into reality. The magic may not be in the air, but it's there, in the friendships formed on the pitch, in the thrill of the chase, and in the shared love for a sport that once only existed in a book. Whether it's a high-stakes Quidditch World Cup final, a rowdy Hogwarts house match, or a group of Muggles sprinting across a field with broomsticks in hand, Quidditch remains one of the most exciting, beloved, and enduring parts of the wizarding world. It's proof that magic doesn't just exist in spells and wands. It lives in the stories we tell, the games we play, and the dreams we chase. Thank you for spending your night with Lost at 3 AM. Sweet dreams, and we'll see you next time.